Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. We have the Daily Dissident himself joining us this evening. He's going to be sharing the stage with me here. Landon, how are you? Tell everyone where they can find you.
What's up, Tim? It's good to be back, brother. I know we did a show a couple months ago and it was super fun. I'm so excited for this episode, dude. I really feel that, like we were talking pre in the show that we're really making a difference here. And, that's the main objective of why I do my show. And you can find me wherever you find podcasts, Applefy, Spotify. I said Applefy, I don't know why,
I
but
like that. I like that.
Amazon. So everywhere you get your podcasts, I'm on there. We also have a YouTube channel. It's not really I haven't really put much work into it. So hopefully be getting some podcasts, some video versions up there soon. So yeah, I'm super
Yeah,
excited to see you, man.
yeah, you too, bro. I'll send you this one if you want for your YouTube for video. But yeah, actually that show we did together was really great. I enjoyed it. I came on your show. In fact, well, I'd recommend people going and listening to it over there at The Daily Dissident. But I also put it up last Sunday on Cult of Conspiracy. So it's up
Okay.
there as well.
Nice.
Yeah. And so I think it's been up there now for a week. But yeah, of course, if you haven't picked up on it, Landon's my boy. He made a good impression, you could say. Plus, I like his podcast, so I asked him to come hang out. And I'm gonna try to keep it loose here, but basically, I've had a lot of people reach out to me. The response I've gotten lately has been awesome to do with these dams and these ancient sites. And people have been dropping by on my Instagram and my email and letting me know what they like, kind of stuff that they're liking with the show and all that. So, and what they want to hear more of. And like the response lately has been overwhelming for the dams thing. So I've got all that information that I have compiled with me today. So we can get into that at some point. But definitely happy to
Absolutely.
have you here and hang out with me, man.
Yeah, man. Super excited, ready for the show.
Yeah. Cover up of ancient The cover up of ancient sites. That's what this is. Net, what do you think of? I never thought I'd be into this stuff.
Yeah, it's when I first started researching conspiracy, I think one thing that really opened my mind was the whole Smithsonian cover up and the bone wars of the late 1800s there. Also sent me down a flat earth trail. I'm not a flat earther. I'm not a round earther. I don't know what it is.
Thank you.
But
Me
yeah,
neither.
it kind of got me down the trail of the hidden history. And as I started talking to more and more people, JJ, of course, he's big into the mound sites, and you as well. So yeah, so kind of really it's weird, to think about, why would the government want to, the Smithsonian, aka the government, but why would they want to, cover up these ancient mounds and, kind of brush under the rug, right? You don't hear about this stuff in high school history class, or any history class. The Serpent Mound in Ohio. I'm from West Virginia, so you have the Ohio River Valley. I mean, they're flooded. The Indiana mounds are everywhere there. So super weird. You find out these Adinas, some of them come out 8 foot tall, and the bone structures do.
Mhm.
So super weird stuff, man. And it's scary, but fun also at the same time. So
These
that's kind
sites
of
are literally flooded. To touch on something you said there, some of these sites are literally flooded. Like I think I know what you mean there. Like you're saying, like they're everywhere,
right. Yeah. Yeah. And you're meaning literally, which is,
literally flooded.
which I'm super interested to hear about because I haven't done much research into it. I've just, surface level stuff on the mounds. But yeah, super, super excited to hear what you have to say about it.
I think it's the major sites, the paradigm shifting sites that got flooded. I don't think it's just a couple mounds in a field, although I don't want to diminish that either because some of those couple mounds in a field have crazy astrological alignments, crazy trigonometry involved with their placement and construction, all that stuff. But those aren't the ones that they flooded. They flooded stuff that I think were like ancient cities, like for real. And I know I'm gonna have to substantiate that some today
Right.
because that's a big claim, and people are like, "What's this guy talking about?" But first, let me do this. Let me do this. Let me show you. Have you heard about the sinkholes in St. Louis?
No, I've not.
All right, I'm gonna start with this because if you can actually pull it up too, because I bet you other articles will show up. But I've
What
got
is it
one.
called again?
Just put in sinkholes in St. Louis. Here, I'll pull this one up though. This is just a screenshot of what you get when you pull it up. Large sinkhole recently opened up in the park in Alton, Illinois, which is near St. Louis. I looked it up. It looks like it's like right in St. Louis. The sinkhole, estimated to be 100 feet wide, appeared in the middle of a turf area in Gordon Moore Park. Okay, so and then there's sinkhole swallowing St. Louis take emergency. They trigger emergency fishing order. And the one down here at the bottom, I actually went and watched this news thing on this, but this says homeowners grapple with squatters amid sinkhole crisis in St. Louis. So there's multiple things going on here, right? But this one in particular has to do with a gaping sinkhole on Potomac Street in St. Louis, uh, and how it's raising serious safety concerns. So I went and I watched some of this stuff to see what some of these locals had to say, and it got interesting. Um, this is like all over St. Louis. Uh, and there's locals on YouTube who have been walking around filming this stuff and talking about it. And there's a dude out there who, in correlation with that last article I read, was out there. He owns the house. There's a huge sinkhole in front of the house, but there's other ones popping up on the street, and you can see down inside of the sinkhole. And he literally says on camera and shows it on camera. He's like, see, you can look down there and see the old brick streets below. And then there's something else below the old brick streets.
Wow.
Layers,
That's
there's layers of city down there.
right.
And the guy says something, he's like, I think a study should be done to find out what's beneath the streets of St. Louis. And I was like, okay, okay. Um, are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay, okay. I thought maybe I was. So anyway, I'm just throwing that in because I think this is interesting because of St. Louis itself. Right outside of St. Louis is Cahokia, and this
Okay.
is what I'm talking about with like trying to substantiate my claims. This is one of the best things I can show people. There's literally an ancient city right outside of St. Louis. Part of it St. Louis was built on, and that's Cahokia. And now there's a lot of Cahokia has been destroyed. There's like 100-foot tall mound that's still there, though. You could get on top of the mound, you could see St. Louis. There was a temple up there with 5-foot walls. Um, there's another mound called Monk's Mound nearby. It's huge. There's tunnels from uh, between the two mounds. There's tunnels that run under the river to St. Louis, where if you look at old newspaper articles, they talk about how they were building St. Louis and they found these tunnels under the river, and in the tunnels they're like perfectly constructed, like Indiana Jones stuff with like lions' heads with torches and all this stuff. I don't think the torches were still burning, but you know what I'm
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
So there's like I've been looking into this. They're saying there's a two-story building inside of one of the main mounds that's still there, buried inside. Could be an ancient temple epicenter.
Right.
Down there could be treasure. Who knows? They won't allow excavations. But the point is like this was very spread out. There was 120 pyramids there at Cahokia. It was a city that housed at least 25,000 people.
Wow. So pretty major, right?
Pretty
This
major.
isn't this isn't a small feat,
No.
you know.
Major hub. I've heard other researchers say there may have been like 60,000 people living there. And this is all around like 1000 AD. And then it fell, they estimate around 1350 AD. But at its peak, it was bigger than London during the day or whatever.
Right.
So, because London's also an ancient city, but at some point it was bigger than London. It was a huge city over here. So, Greg Little does really great work on this. He breaks down how Cahokia fell, and what you see is all these other walled cities, fortified walled cities, start showing up everywhere else in America after Cahokia fell because there was a mass exodus of these people. So
Right.
that's what I'm talking about with ancient cities,
And
right?
it's a fault line there too, right? Missouri, that part of Tennessee, right in that little area, right? That's a Madrid fault line, right?
I'm not sure, actually.
I believe
Possibly.
so. Yeah, let me look that up,
Hmm.
because I think that could play a lot into this as well. You know what I mean? If we're
Yeah.
talking, I don't know, does this sound crazy? But are these fault lines? Are these kind of like energy sources? I don't know, dude. Is this stuff coming, from if you get into some under earth stuff, you know what I mean? You can get pretty deep real
Hmm.
quick, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar with the Penny Royal podcast over there. So those guys, that's kind of what they were thinking, names and places as you've stated before as well. All these things have meanings, and it's almost a spelling, right?
Hmm.
They're casting spells, manipulating the energy. That's what this stuff is about. So super cool. I didn't
I like that.
understand.
I like that, dude. I
Yeah,
want to dig on that too when you're done.
we had in my hometown, speaking of uh fault sinkholes, we have a bunch of them in West Virginia, southern West Virginia, where I'm from originally. But a lot of the limestone, that's kind of what the reason was behind all these sinkholes, because there's one literally in the middle of our town in Lewisburg. It's like 120 foot deep maybe, but they filled it in with gravel and rock. So it was super cool to see that, because we were building a building right beside there. So we got to, I got to see the guys with their seismic testers, and they got these machines that they ping underground with. So you're able to see like the whole under. It's pretty much a cave system underneath this whole town. So it's super weird.
Oh
But
man,
caves
that's
are everywhere, man.
Seattle too. Seattle's got a whole underground. There's a whole underground city that's there that this modern city was built on top of. But oh, you remind me of something. Back to the sinkholes thing. I'm not really doing it justice. Like there's a sinkhole in St. Louis that is literally swallowing up an entire lake that's in this city park.
That's crazy.
And but it's not just that park. It's like all these other little pockets. So I'm like, when I saw that, because here's the thing with St. Louis, man. Like, if you've ever been, you'll know there's downtown, and in between downtown and the river, which the river is right there, there's a park, and it's got a big arch.
Right. I took the exit there. Super sketchy as well.
Yes.
Don't miss a street in St. Louis, man.
Yes,
Me,
dude.
me and my cousin were traveling to Colorado, and we actually took a wrong exit into St. Louis, so it was super sketchy.
Yeah, it
Um,
is. It's sketchy. You can on any given day you might see somebody walking around with an AK.
right. Yeah, potentially.
Potentially. But that whole part, I looked into it. That was all mounds, and I think a couple temples as well. They bulldozed it to put in those big old arches. So the whole entire place is on an old civilization, and it's like it's not just St. Louis. It's like if you look at Cincinnati, similar story.
Yeah,
Um,
super weird there as well with the
I
whole
have
society of
the
Cincinnati.
Yes, exactly, dude. You already know, man. Hold on. I think I have one of these articles right here on this. This thing must have. Um, Basically, the Putnam Peabody. Oh my gosh, man, my computer is being weird. Okay, let me see if I have this thing. Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. This will be worth it. Give people a little visual here of what I'm talking about in regards to Cincinnati. Um, this is a diagram of the mounds and the mound complex that is literally beneath Cincinnati. It's called the Turner Group, Ohio's lost Hopewell masterpiece. We can debate whether or not the Hopewell people built this. I would suggest it was probably potentially it was an older culture, but this is and the Peabody did this study. Peabody Museum did this. I, yeah, you're right, because it says Peabody Museum papers right there. And I think Putnam was involved with this as well. He was a like a mainstream archaeologist. So this is beneath downtown Cincinnati. And
Wow. That's
There,
super weird.
yeah, and I want to loop back to something you said about like the magic of the actual land itself. Um, eh, let me throw one more thing in. The people who they won't tell you that like what Landon broke down, like Society of Cincinnati, George Washington, Henry Knox, they pretty much built what Cincinnati would become there, but they built it on an older civilization. And if you want to look more into that, you look up the Fort Ancient people.
What
They
is it?
Fort Ancient people. They lived in the area since around 900 AD. And they say, if you look into their legends, they said they weren't the first people to live there. They said they moved in to where to a city that the giants had built.
Mm.
And they said the giants built all those mounds. So
Right.
that gets me back. And the giants, well, there's good indication that they were sorcerers because with some of the stuff we were pulling out of these mounds, like crystal balls and magic wands and uh,
Skulls.
skulls, like shaman masks. I could show you a cool shaman mask later that was pulled out of one of these things. What else did they have?
So in short, basically they're necromancers, right?
I think so. I think
You
so.
would have it would only make sense, right?
Well, I think that goes back to Ishbi Benob in Samuel in the Bible. His, his name literally means man that sits on the high place, son of the necromancer. And he was a giant from Gath, mentioned in Samuel. And I think those giants came over here. And I'm like thinking right now, I'm like, I don't have time to break all this down, but like there's a lot of evidence pointing to these giants from the Middle East coming over here, and they're the ones who built these mounds, or they were a part of the group at least who did.
Right.
Canaanite, Phoenicians, etc. But they had, and here's another good one, like Baghdad, right? Uh, I think that a lot of these older cities built over here were constructed after the ones built over there in the Middle East. And if you want to follow that model, if you look at Baghdad, Baghdad was laid out astronomically. The city itself was built on sacred geometry, and it was almost like it was meant to be magically charged. So there's probably a reason why it's been said that that Baghdad museum sits on a stargate. You know, perhaps the city was an astronomical talisman, and the talisman charged the city itself and lended to it prospering in the ancient world. Very magical stuff over there with those cities.
And you think the blood ritual sacrifices that go down during these wars, right? Isn't it rumored as well? Like Vietnam had some of that mysticism going on as well. Ancient Vietnam, China, that area, yeah. So super weird that you find these wars, um, in all these places. Syria being another one, Um, just kind of interesting to think about. Are we really over there to fight these quote unquote terrorists? Are we there digging up giant bones and destroying ancient artifacts?
Looking for
That's
stargates,
right. That's a little bit more
Gilgamesh.
appealing. That makes more sense to me through a Christian perspective, of why we would be over there, not just because they're quote unquote terrorists, which they probably aren't, but that's neither here or there. So I
Mm-hmm.
just find it weird that we have these high conflict areas. Usually, there's some sorts of, as you're stating, necromancy, some weird dark stuff that goes on, so
Mm-hmm.
just weird that.
Well, and maybe I'll get to this today if we have time, but Ishbi Benob was a Canaanite, and we found that Canaanite shipwreck that's 3,300 years old. That tells you that they were sailing the seas around the time that these mounds were being built. And there was the copper mines over here, and there's all this. There was the Phoenician trade running up and down the Mississippi. The Phoenicians are Canaanites. The Amorites are Canaanites. They all had kind of giants in their midst. So Yeah, and like to touch on like what you're saying with these wars, man. Like, have you ever seen that clip of that general who came out and was saying, "Oh yeah, they had all these wars in the Middle East laid out." Do you know what I'm talking about? The guy was like, he was
No.
like, um, gosh, I think it was maybe Obama administration. He worked there. He's like, "Oh yeah, they came in and told us in a meeting we're gonna hit Iraq, Syria, Lebanon." And or whatever. I don't know if Lebanon was on the list, but they had like seven countries over in the Middle East that they were secretly planning to hit. It was
Right.
planned all along. Like it's like why? Yeah, it's like your question, like why did we really need to be over there and doing this? Was this oil money, or was there's more to the land itself? Did Saddam have himself a Stargate? Did he have some sort of an ancient technology?
Sorry about that.
What happened? I think we're good.
Okay.
I didn't
You're
catch
good.
that.
All
Um,
right.
so anyway, I think you got two things happening over here with these ancient cities. Um, you mentioned the Society of Cincinnati. You have them. They were here. Many of those guys came over during the Revolutionary War, American Revolution. They started the Society of Cincinnati with Washington at the helm. Then they start the country. This is the group Manly P. Hall talks about in Secret Destiny. There's an order of secret men who have been behind the curtain throughout the ages, pulling the strings. Basically, we just live on their timeline. They hide the truth from us, and most of us just believe whatever they decide to tell us. But for our story today, yes, that's the Society of Cincinnati, and that society affects the decision making of groups like the Smithsonian.
Right.
You also
The
have
Rockefellers,
yeah.
the DuPonts,
Yeah.
major players and shakers, especially, that's a lesser known evil. I would say, throughout the conspiracy world, really, the DuPont family. And, you have the DuPont water spill there in Parkersburg, West Virginia, which sits along the Ohio. Um, Pretty crazy stuff. You know what I mean? You guys want to look into that? It's super interesting. It's a tangent, but it's a good read. The film Dark Waters actually covered it pretty good. So check that movie out. It's really good.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about another question you posed as well, is like why pick the land that we go to war in, right? Like what's really going on with these decisions? And because it does seem like they had a protocol to scout the locations that they picked to build the cities on.
Right.
Because they knew, it's like they Washington and some of these boys knew about these older cities, and it's like the feng shui was already there, the magic geomancy was already there, it was in place from an older group. The
Right.
Rockefellers knew about this too. It's why he built his house right on top of a Temecula altar on Jekyll Island. There was a mound site. Rockefeller knew that, and there's artwork and painting and legend and all that altar is where these giants, the Temecula were like said to be 7 foot, they would engage in child sacrifice. And it's just part of what they did. Rockefeller knew that, and he literally built his house right on top of the altar where they did the child sacrifice. And that's where they did this whole um, the financial system. They set it up right there in that parlor on top of that altar. That's by design. That's these guys using the magic geomancy that's already in place from an older group. And I would argue that Temecula tribe was descendants of the Canaanites.
Right.
At the
You get in
very least, somebody from the Middle East, another tribe from the Middle East, right?
coming back to the whole fallen angel stuff, right? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? All these divisive techniques, kind of are pushed out through these Canaanite locations,
Yeah.
the prehistoric sites, right?
Yeah,
So
and you
kind of
you got to ask like how many of our cities were picked in this type of way. Like, John Levi in his book, he talks about how San Francisco is on old maps from the 1500s. But they say, they being the establishment of the Society of Cincinnati, Wikipedia, and everybody who follows a step with the narrative, they say it starts in the 1700s. So why is it on maps from the 1500s? And how much further back does it go from there?
Right. If they're lying, 200 years, another question to pose is what happened, why not say it was, 1680 or why 1700, right? You got that split and you're saying 1500. So I'm just thinking,
Yeah, it's like, was it a reset or something?
right. Yeah. Yeah. That kind of lends towards, was there a reset in between that time frame of some sort of shake, right?
Mhm. Well, there was
And
certainly a shift in the late 1800s. In 1880, if you look in the Smithsonian documents and the Bureau of Ethnology documents, that's when, and I'm not going to like go all the way down this rabbit hole, dude, but basically, in a nutshell, naturalism, Darwinism, scientism that's kind of floating over from the Royal Society across the pond and getting into the minds of our monarchs over here in our new American empire. That type of thinking is starting to take hold. And that's when you start to see the removal of the giant bones from the museums.
right. Well, some, as I said earlier, some people, and I don't know if I'm one of them or not yet. Really, I'm not clear on my ideology about it, but I think after reading the Bone Wars of how these dudes were shipping these, showing these fake Chinese dinosaur bones, in the 1880s. I don't know. You lend yourself to believe. You have who was it that sent over the scientists in the Geneva Convention? That was Rockefellers too, I think. They were the ones who coined the term fossil fuels, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a hitting of history, right? I mean, are these actual fossils? Are they really fossils? You know what I mean? Where's the Earth replenishing itself of its oil or its bloodline, right? That I've heard that statement before too. That the oil of the Earth is the blood of the Earth, right? So I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard it from several different people that's kind of stated that. It's fun to think about.
It is, man. We might have to do something more on the dinosaur thing. I'm looking in my notes right now and I can't find it. There's a really, really cool story of all these artifacts that were found down in Mexico, and I'm blanking on the name of these artifacts. Um, but basically, the establishment says that these are all hoax, but if you look into it, they seem like they're not a hoax, and they're basically like little dinosaur idols. They're little models of dinosaurs. So look, I think there's two things going on with this dinosaur thing. That's why I say we might have to do something entirely dedicated to that because I know somebody who actually found a dinosaur, unless that they unless they were completely lying to me and my family.
Right.
We'll save that for another day. But there's something to the Bone Wars too. There's something to them faking all these dinosaurs as well. And I've always wanted to get to the bottom of that. I'm like, what is this? Like, what's happening here with these because now a lot of people straight up believe that all the dinosaurs weren't real. The whole thing was faked.
Right.
I get people on my
Which,
show all the time who say something about that.
yeah, it's weird to think about, right? If you think, if you want to go even just a little bit deeper on that, you look into the dinosaurs, and then I think me and you discussed this before, but you have the Bible, mentioning dragons, right? Are these dragons that they're uncovering? Are these not actually quote unquote dinosaurs? Are they actually dragons of biblical times? So it's
Mhm.
fun to ponder that, right?
It's fun, man. And like even there's a museum over in Appalachia on the North Carolina side of where I'm at. Um, they've got little things that were artifacts. I'll just call them artifacts that were found over there in the mountains of guys riding triceratopses or triceratops, whatever, plural, singular, I don't know. But there's a picture of guys riding a triceratops like as if it was a camel or something.
Right.
It's like, well, so what was really going on over here? we'll have to do something on that, man. We'll talk
Yeah, for
about
sure.
it.
It's fun that to get into the whole oil narrative, Rockefeller Foundation, right? The scientific cover-ups, because the Rockefellers were super involved in that, right? Via the Smithsonian. So was
And
this
the
a
education system itself.
right, the whole shebang, right? So
Yeah.
you kind of get this indoctrination camp from the Rockefellers just saying, "Hey, we got these dinosaur bones, man, and there's only so many of them, and we're going to run out of oil." That's what they're saying, and they're the ones selling the oil. So it's like, come on,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. Oh, that's killing me right now. What is these artifacts called? Oh, we'll come back to it, dude. There. You've got to see this. This would be the coolest thing to pull up on the show right now, and I can't remember what it's called. But anyways, back to the cities. You make some good points, Landon. You make some good
I know
points
I
about
can
them
I can throw us
Rockefellers.
off a tangent quick.
Um, there's actually a third component here that's really interesting to the alleged cover up. I think it's just straight up a cover up, but I'm just going to use the word alleged for this one. But like, there's a third component here where you have like the Great Fires. You had like downtown Seattle, Spokane.
Chicago, Baltimore, all
Yes,
around the late 1800 time mark, right? Early
right.
1900s, late 1800s.
Summer of 1889. Three cities in Washington state all burnt down. Seattle, Spokane, Ellisburg. What are the chances? You got the Great Fire of Chicago. Three other major fires happened in cities the same night in
Right.
in Illinois. It seems like there was an agenda there,
Yeah,
right?
and the main causation of these fires are cows kicking over lanterns.
Get out of here.
So it's like these tall Paul Bunyan tales that we get from this crap, and it's like, dude, these places were probably torched. I don't know, by maybe a laser. I don't know. You know what I mean? You could go 9 million different ways with that if you want to, but what they're telling us is definitely not true. There's not this many um uh, uh what's it called when pyromaniac cows running around, you know what
Right,
I mean?
right.
These
And
cows are just getting felonies.
and the pictures are from those fires are wild. It looks like a bomb got dropped, man.
Richmond, that was another big one too, right? The Richmond fire, that was right after the Civil War, if I do believe.
Yeah, and like in a lot of these pictures, all you see is rubble, but the rubble is like stone and brick. It's like, why are these things burning down in the first place? First of all, why are they completely demolished by a fire as if a bomb went off? They look like pictures from World War II, where you have
Yeah.
the Allies coming in and bombing a place all to hell. That's what these great fire pictures look like. The rubble is unbelievable. So anyway, I'm just saying there's there's many different components to this cover up, I think, as to how, why, and when they covered up some of these amazing cities that were over here. And just ruins in general. Like, but I'm gonna focus on the flooding part today, just because the civilization's under dams. That seems to be what people are really wanting to hear, and I'm happy to
Right.
talk about it because here's the deal. I think part of America being such an economic powerhouse currently and back in the day comes down to us having like three major coastlines, including deep water harbors. East Coast, West Coast, places in the Gulf. We can get stuff places. And the Mississippi River holds a major role in that. It's one of the most profitable river systems in the world. If a farmer of any kind in Indiana or Iowa can get his stuff to a tributary of the Mississippi, get it on a boat, get it down to, I don't know, port in New Orleans, that's big. That's big for our economy. And that's like that farmer can then just do that again as soon as he has a re-up on supply, more product to ship. So America holds power in its waterways, and the ancients knew about this. That's one of the main reasons why I'm bringing it up, because I would suggest that Columbus got his maps to come here in the first place for people who had been coming here already for millennia. to take advantage of the Mississippi and getting
Right.
up into this continent for goods for the copper mines out of Lake Michigan. That's one thing that it was a commercial hub over here. Um, that just ties in with that 3,300-year-old Canaanite shipwreck that was found. They were coming over here, man. They were sailing the Mississippi. Um, and that river has just been associated with trade this whole time. Now, where I want to bring it into focus today is people were building up along these rivers. So what happens if you expand those waterways? Those ancient ruins, the traces of the ancient civilizations disappear under the water. And that's what happened here. I'm finding that when we started putting in all these dams, many of them seemingly unnecessary dams, even, that's exactly what happened. Ancient sites that were super interesting, like Egyptians, maybe even, like that's a whole other rabbit hole, but Canaanites, Phoenicians, Minoans, Hittites, those sites that your manifest destiny archaeologists like Putnam and Powell didn't want to deal with conveniently disappeared when we put in these dams. You also have the Army Corps of Engineers over here putting in a ton of dams. I was talking to JJ too the other day, and we pulled it up, man. I put it in. I was like Army Corps of Engineers dams, and I got a list of at least 40 dams that those guys built.
Right. I
Um,
can name one of them right now. Well, technically two. You have one in it is called Lake Moomaw in Covington, Virginia, and you have one called Bluestone Lake, which is in West Virginia. That's in Summers County. But both of them are ran by Army of Corps of Engineers. That's who built these. You know what I mean? So,
mhm.
and I'm
And
and
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just blanking. Maybe another one is Summersville in West Virginia as well. Summersville Lake. Both of were pretty close to where I'm from, so that's why I'm familiar with them.
I'd love to know what's at the bottom of some of those lakes. Honestly,
Some of
like
them are deep, man. Like 120 feet, I think Summersville is in some points. So that's pretty deep. That's as
and
deep as the Chesapeake,
they're all
the Bay.
artificial, right? These are
Yeah, all those are
artificial lakes. Yeah.
artificial.
hmm That's what we're talking about here, man. I'm going to show you a list of them here in a minute of the dams that I've found that have something. Undeniably, they have something at the bottom. When I say dams, I'm talking about two things. Some of these sites are underneath the actual dam itself, but I'm also talking about the artificial lake created by the dam.
Right,
So
which would be easier to flood, right? You would get more. You could do a larger area. You could hide a lot. You could put a tarp over a larger area with water than you could with concrete, right?
sure. Yeah, it's like, yeah, man. It's like some of these areas were too big for them to plop a Walmart down on top of, you know, because of the concrete part, right? Like you could cover some ground with a Walmart parking lot, son, but
Right.
you could cover more ground with a lake.
So, are you saying Walmart was involved in these ancient cities being built on them, right?
That's what me and JJ were talking about the other day. He found
Y-
a museum inside of a Walmart that
In
was
Arkansas?
maybe I don't remember where he said it was, but some Walmart that he's been to that it's got a little like not advertised museum in there that's dedicated to the civilization and the relics that were found right there where they put the Walmart. It's
Walmart's super
ridiculous.
weird, dude. If you've done any research into the FEMA camps, some of them look like FEMA camps, and some people have even discussed of underground, bases, tunnel ways too. Maybe some of these tunnel ways led to some lakes. I'm not entirely for sure.
Now we're
You
getting
know,
into some Jesse Ventura conspiracy theory stuff here, bro. That takes me way back. He was all over those FEMA camps back in the
oh,
day.
I know, dude. Well, if you look at the No Kings protest, man, that just happened because I've done a deep dive in it.
Mhm.
The Latinos are protesting. The whole thing was put on by the freaking Walmart, so the
Yeah.
Walton family.
Yep. Yep.
So it's like, I don't know, bro. Why are they wanting to cause havoc in the United States, right? Are
Yeah.
they trying to get these camps filled up and sell some crappy produce at the same time? I don't know.
Well, that it when you look into a lot of these families, you do find that they are Society of Cincinnati families, or their family is associated with the Cosmos Club, which John Wesley Powell himself from the Smithsonian started. Because if
Okay,
you
I'm
look
not
at
familiar with them.
John Wesley Powell,
No, the Cosmos
oh, okay,
Club.
yeah, it's an organization a lot like the Society of Cincinnati. In fact, their headquarters, the Cosmos Club headquarters, is in Washington D.C., across the street from the Society of Cincinnati headquarters.
Right in DuPont Circle.
Yes. Yep. And all those families, like the DuPonts and Rock, they're all in the milieu. They're all part of this. And what you see when you go through the list, I'll show you later if I have time. If I'll show you a list of these guys that are on. I compiled a list of these guys who founded the Cosmos Club, and they're in all faction of government. They were the most powerful guys at the time in this country. That's why they put their headquarters in Washington, D.C. It was all, American Philosophical Society,
Theologian Society.
Shakespeare Society. They were all the archaeological societies, including the Smithsonian. Um, all the major universities had a guy in the Cosmos Club, Harvard, Yale, Columbia, Columbia. So they were all the biggest guys of the day. And who starts it? John Wesley Powell. Who's John Wesley Powell? He's the guy they send in 1880 to swerve the narrative, to shift the narrative. The same time you start seeing the dinosaur bones, not dinosaur, giant bones disappearing.
Right.
They there was a, and I hate to say this
Is
because
he a Mormon?
no, but he worked with Mormons because
Okay.
they were in charge of mapping out the West. John Wesley Powell, the Cosmos Club, Smithsonian,
Right.
they all sent people out to the West to like map
Survey.
it out, survey it. Yeah, thank you. So all these people are involved. So yeah, Walmart, man, they might be that family might be just involved with all of this together. And yeah, we know that they fund and bust people into these protests. Yeah, it's a lot of times it's just a bunch of rich kids who
Yep.
have powerful parents. That's what you see. Like when you go back into the 70s, man, you look at these the White Panther Party, the Black Panther Party, the SSP, I think they were called, all those, all that crowd. They were, doing riots in the streets. Well, if you go back and you look at the pictures of their riot, and you see who's standing, who's leading the riot, there's always at least two rich kids leading the whole group. And if you look into them, look up their name, and you find that their dad is like a rich dude who's on the board of all these different companies involved with government every
Right.
time.
Yeah. Super suspicious, right?
Yeah.
Nothing to see there.
It's like these guys, they get involved with what do they call it? Activism. It's like, you see people that from like St. Louis, for instance, that make it big in Hollywood, and all of a sudden they turn into an activist. Like it's just a
Right.
thing that people do when they get money.
It's basically, activism is basically, a term for I don't have a job and my dad pays my rent.
Yeah,
That's basically what that means.
that's what I.
Most people that work for a living, you know what I mean, and
Hmm.
produce in the world, they don't have this fairy tale ideologically driven lifestyles, right?
Right.
Most of us can't afford to do that, to live that life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you get to a certain place in life where you're pretty much good, you don't have to worry about a job, you don't have to worry about rent or mortgage. Like if your bills are paid, if you have money, you start to not have problems, you start to create problems.
Sure. Yeah. You see
It's
that
like we're
with
wired that way. It's like we need some sort of struggle. And
right,
so when we don't have natural struggles like our ancestors had living out in the wild and stuff, when you don't have that, you start to manufacture struggle. And I see that
right.
with a lot of these people involved with the activism.
Huh. Yeah, that's a really good point. Never thought of it that way.
But yeah, so
Do
you
you
have
have
your
1 second real quick?
yeah,
Can we pause this?
yeah,
I
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
use the bathroom really bad. I gotta pee.
Yeah, so we're back, getting back on. I love the tangents, by the way, man. The tangents are fun. I think I think we're hitting on some important stuff here, but you know,
My schizo brain goes 9 million different ways. You know what I mean?
it's cool. I mean, and you know, I think one of the main things we were talking about was the Army Corps of Engineers, and like you've got, and I'll probably bring this up in a minute. JJ Vance, shout out to JJ Vance, Operation GCD podcast. He was showing me this site that he's looked at personally. It's underneath a lake, and the lake was put in by the Army Corps of Engineers. So yeah, there's that. That's an element here, and you also have. I'm gonna sprinkle this one more thing in, and then I'm gonna get to the actual dams. Like you got the FDR New Deal involved with the creation of these dams. And in fact, some of my listeners reached out to me and turned me on to this. So I went and looked into it, and what you have is um, the WPA, Works Progress Administration. FDR starts it 1935. It's part of the New Deal. What they told everybody is that it was to give Americans something to do, to put Americans to work in like the Depression or whatever. So they give them this what they call public works projects, right? Sounds like a psyop, right? But that's what they call it. They
It sounds like free labor tax
yeah,
write-offs, right?
yeah. See, I knew you. I knew. Yeah, you're picking up what I'm putting down, bro. Yeah. So they employed something like 8.5 million people to do
Wow.
1.5 million projects. Um, Apparently, part of that was flooding regions all over the country. One of the big regions I saw that popped up immediately was northern Alabama, where the Cherokee ruins were before they got flooded. So, and also this WPA was putting out propaganda as to why they needed to flood these regions in the first place. So they had their own
Okay.
propaganda department to get like people on board with it. Like, oh, we got to put this dam in because it's going to, you know, the normal stuff they say, create jobs, create
Right.
electricity, energy, like the normal stuff they always say. So that's the setup for the dams, man. That's the setup. Um, and the lakes, of course, artificial lakes. So first one on my list, East Fork Lake. This is the one. Shout out to JJ again. It's the one JJ told me about. This is outside of Cincinnati, outside of the city that was picked by the Society of Cincinnati. They built the city on a mound site. So they built the city on part of the ancient civilization, and then they flooded another part of it. Um, JJ has an excavation map of a mound and what I would call possibly a temple site there. So this is one I'm putting top of my list because the Society of Cincinnati is like directly involved with the cover up for this one. Um, and I have a picture here of what is under this lake, and this is wild.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's a big
It's
one.
a massive lake.
And I'm gonna show you guys the screenshot of the Wikipedia page for this thing that somebody created, just so everybody can go check it out if they want. This is old Hanukkah mound. Um, it's in the shape of a menorah, oil lamp. This is at the confluence of the Little Miami River and I think another river, if I'm remembering correctly. But its origins here, like it says, are attributed to the Hopewell culture. Okay. This thing apparently is covered about 20 acres. This thing was huge. Like imagine a menorah visible from space, right?
Yeah, it's super. I don't.
Uh,
Seems kind of sinister, right?
the cover up, yeah. The cover, yeah. Um, this just blows my mind because it's like I don't think they had an answer for this. You're going to say that the Native Americans put in a Hebrew symbol,
Right.
and like Hebrew stuff will come up again, I'm sure. There's a lot of weird Hebrew stuff over here, and you're not going to hear about this in your American history classes. Nobody's going to touch this.
I'm
They're
not
not
going to
going
hear
to.
about the Druze,
You're not going to hear about any of them, the Druids, or the Hebrews, or whatever you just said. Who did you say? Druze?
the Druze.
Who's that?
It starts with a J, and you'll get you you start getting knocked if you mention the name.
I got you. The Hebrews, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. The Druze. So this is one site that's underneath the lake, and it's a compelling site. This suggests that there was another group of people over here that were not Native American to me. All right. You also have the Roosevelt Dam in Arizona. Might have a picture for this too.
Wasn't there a huge city in Arizona they found recently?
There's a couple of it over there in Arizona. So yeah, probably. Uh, that was I mean I think Phoenix itself sits
Right.
on
And the
top
na
of one.
and the name, right, too. You get back into the spelling of things. Phoenix, right? The rising of the Phoenix. So
Hmm. Hmm.
super occultic, right? That's more of your wheelhouse too, you know what I mean? I love to hear the kind of the occult perspective, of these different names, spell casting, I guess you could say, right?
Hmm.
Of these things.
Yeah, man, names are very telling. They're very telling, especially in my search for uncovering the true nature of the history over here in North America. The names are very telling to me because every time the name reflects something that shouldn't be over here, it usually you start looking around in that area, you do find that there was an ancient group, and a lot of them were occultists. That's to tie that in that were here, and then you get names like Mummies, Kentucky, Iberia, Kentucky. Iberia is Spain. That's the Spanish Peninsula. Those people were coming over here for sure. They were taking port in Spain in Iberia and then jumping across the Atlantic to come over here. So there's a reason why there's places over here called Iberia, and you've got Cairo, Illinois. You've got all these weird names.
Memphis,
Memphis,
Tennessee.
yes, yes. And it's funny because there were artifacts found that look Egyptian in Tennessee. So you always could find yourself back at the names, like saying, I wonder. But with this one, I've got the whole article here on my phone, so I'm gonna pull it up and read it. So this was called Ebbing Lake, and I think it's now called Roosevelt Lake. Um, this is from the New York Times, April 25th, 1925. The drought in Arizona and the lowering of the waters of Roosevelt Lake near Globe, Arizona, have exposed the ruins of what was once the biggest city in America. According to an announcement yesterday by the American Museum of Natural History, the big town, which is somewhere between 2,000 and 5,000 years old, is being explored by American Museum archaeologists who were sent there by Mrs. William Boyce Thompson, wife of the copper and oil man. In addition to its interest as the metropolis, so they're calling it a metropolis, they're calling it a city, they're saying it's 5,000 years old. This is crazy, right? So they're saying that this is the metropolis of the prehistoric Southwest. The place is of importance because its pottery is of a new type and resembles that of Mexico, indicating that the Arizona civilization was an offshoot of the ancient Mexican or vice versa. I don't know if there's anything to that, honestly. Like, we don't know who these people were, but
Right.
it sounds like a cop out to me just to say that they were ancient Mexican, but it could be, but who knows? But it says the greatest American apartment house, ancient or modern, is reported to have been found on this site. Its ruins are 550 feet long. It was either 3 or 4 stories high. Tons of relics, in addition to that, tons of relics showing the work of the interior decorators of the time have been collected. Because of the dryness of the region, textiles have been found well preserved except where the waters of the artificial lake have submerged them. Enrich Schmidt, who is in charge of the expedition, reported abundant finds of pottery with black designs on white background and of a fine corrugated ware. So that's the main article, right? And this is an artificial lake. And in 1925, a drought hits the region. And what do you know? There's an ancient city down there that might be 5,000 years old. Why? You find an ancient city that's 5,000 years old anywhere, people are they're going to rope it off. They're going to send in the experts. They're going to say nobody touches anything unless you've got a degree, unless the professionals are sent in.
Right.
So it's like, why was this flooded in the first place, and why did they let it reflood again? You know what I mean? Like, why did they put an artificial lake here in the first place?
Um, the simple answer would be to cover it up, right? But
Hmm.
it's got to be more to that. Maybe it's as you mentioned, maybe it's this sort of energy, you know, cycle, energy hub. Some could say, right? Maybe we could have used that power in a positive light. I'm not for sure. Maybe they're worried about the public getting their hands on some of this knowledge. Maybe there was ancient readings and writings down there of older texts, that maybe that they were the only ones allowed to have, right? Quote unquote. So that's what comes to my mind first.
This is something because anytime you find a potentially 5,000-year-old city, I mean, it gets, like I said, it gets handled with care, excavated, preserved, studied, except here, and we flood it, and it looks, it's like this Hebrew lamp. It's like, oh, it's nothing. It's just the natives. That's what they're saying when they say it's the Mexican culture.
Right.
Oh, it's
And
nothing.
that
It's just the natives.
and they're saying that there was people here before them, right?
Right. You talk to the natives, and you talk to their elders, their orators, their record keepers, and they say it's like what we talked about earlier, four ancient people, 900 AD, that were living in the Cincinnati city, actually. They say, no, it was somebody here before us, and they were giants.
Right.
And they had advanced knowledge on how to build astronomically aligned mounds and complexes and temples, and they had this weird religion where they practice child sacrifice and all this other stuff, bloodletting and all this other stuff. It's like, no,
Right.
there's more to the story here.
And they have red hair. Some Indians
Yes.
reported them of having red hair.
Yeah.
That's with the Kandahar giant too, right? If we're to believe that's real,
Yeah.
it supposedly had red hair. So
That reminds me of something too, man. I just ordered this book the other day. I don't have it yet, but there's a guy. So there's a brewer's cave in Utah. The short of it is this guy found a cave and there were sarcophaguses inside, and there were giants. There were two giants in this cave, a man and a woman, and the man had red hair. And this guy whose book I ordered, he got to know John Brewer, and he went in and saw it, and he documented it. And in his book, he's got drawings of what he saw in there. So
doesn't this lead to some treasure stuff too, right?
sort of, yes. I
I
would
think
call it treasure because
I
it's
think yeah. I think I heard. I'm interested more hearing about this, but I think I heard it on a podcast. Maybe I
Brewer's
can't
Cave.
remember which one.
This
Yeah,
is a
Morris
wild
Kate.
one. Dude, I'm gonna write this
Was it on
down.
did the confessionals have the dude on there?
I don't know,
Is
man.
that where I heard it?
I don't know, bro. That's a good question. This one I haven't really heard talked about much. That's why I'm writing it down because we might want to revisit this story in general.
Okay.
Um, but anyways, the giant man in the cave was red-headed, but his facial features were Mongolian.
Okay.
So I don't want to bring Tartaria into this,
Right.
but some of those people from the old Tartarian region were the Mongols were over here as well. And this guy was dressed up like a knight too. It looks like he has a big Templar cross on his chest shield, chest piece,
Right.
chest plate, whatever you want to call it. Mongolian face, red hair. The giant woman was blonde. So it's like, what was going on over here, man? For real.
And who buried him?
Yeah, who buried them? And that's the thing, man. We were pulling giants out of these mounds over here too. It wasn't just the caves. You know
Right.
this. I mean, I know you know this, but like all these sites we've talked about today, I think all of them we've spoke about thus far have had giants found. Actually, I'm gonna get to a giant one in a second, but real quick, just to tie into this ancient city thread, there was another dam I found. Sometimes it's called Grand River Dam, but I think it's mainly referred to as Pensacola Dam. But it's not in Florida, it's in Oklahoma. Massive dam built in 1938. And I found an article about a city that was there with 1,000 people of a different race. The article says um, beneath the water was a city of 1,000 people of a different race who had odd skulls and were a race of mound builders.
That's
Now,
weird.
this one's kind of tough to find stuff on. Like that article, I'm gonna have to go back and find it because I don't have it here. For some reason, it's not included in my pictures. But I did see the article and I did document it. Um, so yeah, that's in Oklahoma, man. And let's jump to another one because I need more on that. I need more information on that one, actually, the Pensacola Dam. If anybody has any info on any of this stuff, actually, shoot me an email, sixsensorytim at gmail.com. I spell it out SIX, sixsensorytim, all one word, at gmail.com. If you have anything to do with stuff with lakes and dams, hit me up. But yeah, the Giants thing, right? I'm gonna throw another one at you, bro. Stock Rapids Dam, SAUK. This one correlates with the Sauk Rapids Giant. So
I'm not
either,
familiar.
yeah, either one is kind of a cool dig. Actually, if you guys want to see like something unique, look up that Sauk Rapids Giant. Um, but basically, in the late 1800s, these guys were building a dam, and this is in Minnesota, by the way, and they found, or this is what they documented. They said they found an 11-foot giant in the granite there where they were building the dam. And they said this one gets kind of crazy, but this is what they said. They said the bones alone weighed 300 plus pounds. And they said it
Jeez.
had a 30-inch head or 30 plus inch head. So I think all that's under Sauk Rapids Giant. If you want to look at it, there should be something. And of course,
Yeah, I'm looking right now.
you're going to get stuff saying this is a hoax. You're going to get that. Don't just go with that narrative. Look into it a little bit more. A lot of this stuff is outright called a hoax by people who I don't necessarily agree with. So, um, and this was right off the Mississippi, right?
Right. I was gonna say this is in the Mississippi Valley.
Hmm. Now, this is where it gets interesting, man. Um,
26-inch femur.
mhm.
Jeez.
The local news reported that a guy named General Thomas came in by train by night and took the giant. Now, I looked into this. While I don't know if that was the Smithsonian's doings, I did some digging and I highly suspect that that was Civil War or Union Civil War hero General Henry Thomas, who after the war was working for the Department of the Cumberland in Kentucky and Tennessee. And that's telling for several reasons. He, because that area, this whole area along the Cumberland, including Nashville, is just loaded with mound sites and all kinds of weird relics that were found in giants too. So that seems to be the guy they had in charge of all this after the war. And it seems like they sent him up to Minnesota in the middle of the night to get these giant bones. And
The fixer.
the fixer, someone who would follow orders, hotshot government guy of importance.
Right.
kind of like these guys in the Society of Cincinnati. Um, he's accustomed to the game. He could speak elite. He knows how to follow orders. You send in the respected general. No one's going to tell him no, especially not in the middle of the night. This is the
Right.
type of person that the government and the Smithsonian would use, and this is how the game of the cover up was played, I think.
Wow, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's a huge giant though. This salt rabbit giant. It says it's almost 900 pounds.
Hmm. And that's the thing with these burials of giants. They typically accompany mound sites in older civilizations. So my guess, and I'm gonna speculate here, but my guess is that there's more under that artificial lake and that dam. We only heard about the giant because it's something like sort of exotic or whatever that the townspeople were talking about, and so the paper printed it up. But I would say there's probably more down there for that one.
Do you think there's like still, I don't know how to word this, is there still remnants of these people, or these, is there some supernatural stuff happening around these lakes and dams as well, such as missing boys, type of that, missing kids? Is this, have you noticed any of that doing your research?
Well,
Because that's kind of where my mind's going,
kind of.
towards these ritualistic murders, right? These
Hmm.
these offering sites of these ancient cultures, aka the Canaanites,
Right, right.
fallen
Like,
angels.
yeah, again, like why did Rockefeller put his house on this altar and then
Right.
have the meeting there to establish the Federal Reserve, right? Like they're doing something. They're using the powers of the place, for lack of a
Did
better
you have
word.
Gary Wayne on?
Hmm.
You did, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think I listened to your episode with him. That's a super cool guy, breaking down the aspects behind, the giant, the fallen angels, to the Enochian text, to the present day Federal Reserve, right?
Hmm. Oh yeah, great. Yeah, that's a great point, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
And JJ was actually telling me about a lake in Texas, uh, Ladybird Lake.
Okay. I'm not familiar.
He was saying that there was something funny going on with that, but also that it was there's a lot of really strange murders connected to Ladybird Lake.
Oh, so it's right in Austin.
It's right inside of Austin, Texas.
Yeah, this was some of the smiley face killer stuff too, right?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
And I'm not an expert on that, but he was saying something about Ladybird Lake. So that one.
38, 38 bodies since 2022. Most of the men were 30 out of 38 were men.
Hmm.
That's weird.
I'm pretty sure that that was a mound site at one time before they put that lake in. And I think that like kind of ties in with like Mothman too, like places like Point Pleasant,
Right.
like mound sites, right? Weird stuff happening around mounds. Yeah. Um, this gets, I've got a couple more on the list here, man. I don't know. Hopefully, I'm not like running too long on everybody with this stuff, but
Nah, bring
base.
him out, brother.
All right,
Let's see him.
basically from here, I've got the three lakes in Tennessee that I've been looking at. One is Chickamauga Lake. Um, just a couple of highlights here. There was a place down there called Hawassi Island. It was also called Jolly Island. And you had a Nashville man named J.H. French who came in and found what he called ornately crafted statues. One was native, one was African, one was Mongolian. And they were all kneeling in prayer or in kneeling in reverence. So that's all underneath Chickamauga Lake now. But
Hmm.
that suggests to me that this was a multi-ethnic place where people from different places were worshiping.
Right. Completed in 1940.
Mhm.
Not suspicious at all.
And those
Um,
statues that he found ended up at the Smithsonian, and from there, probably in the vault. I don't know. I
all
think
these
like,
lakes, all these lakes are 1930s to 1940s, right? That's
mm-hmm,
what I'm seeing,
right. Hmm.
which is a big tell, and just basic research. Anybody with a brain can put, those 2 points together and be like, hey, man, something's up here, right?
Right.
That's what I don't understand. Sometimes it's hard to reconcile. I mean, maybe people are aware of it, Tim, and they just don't want to admit it, right? Maybe the truth is stranger than fiction.
That's man, welcome to my life, bro. Yeah, that's what I'm finding. That's been my research, man. Like that's what has been revealed through research to me. That exactly. And like this one was an eye opener too because I was looking at some of these old articles about Hawaii Island and just the stuff that was there before they put the Chickamauga Lake in 1940 or 1930, whichever one it was. But they said in the article that because they were talking about other relics and stuff that were found nearby, they
Hmm.
said that Chattanooga was an ancient site, and so was Nashville. In this old article, these guys literally come out and say, yeah, Chattanooga was an ancient site, as was Nashville. It said, what did it say? It said the grounds of Nashville was founded upon the site of an ancient civilization.
That's
That's
weird.
that's what I'm talking about, man. We put our cities right on top of some of these things and then flooded others. Hawaii Island, they had pyramids there too. Um, Greg Little again has done some good work on that. There's records. If you go around and you talk to some of the Cherokee people and you hear out some of the myths they have about this site, this location. Actually, I have one here. There was a record of an old Cherokee lady who said that you ready to get weird? A
Yeah, let's do it.
race, a race of very small white people came and lived at the ancient site on the side of Hawaii.
Okay. Um,
So
where's this at?
this
In
is
Tennessee?
Chickamauga Lake. This is all underneath Chickamauga Lake today.
So are we considering these people gnomes?
Perhaps because what we have here is we have a mix of people. So you've got the Mongolian statues, right? Um, the African statues. So those people were in this area, and then you've got the small white people who had a little spot there. So what is going on? Well,
Um,
I think that this goes back to this being like a commercial hub. A lot of these locations, because they're on rivers, they're a part of this commerce that was happening in the ancient world.
right.
And they may have been cities like much like ours today, where there's a lot of different types of people from everywhere around the world living there. And with the added bonus of you have giants still roaming the earth, and apparently you have little people.
Right. Yeah, that's a big thing throughout Native Americans, right? I
Mhm.
done a deep dive. What's they're called Megumene or something of the nature.
Yeah.
Trying to think.
There's a there's
Uh
there's a few. There's like the
the
Moonite people,
Pukwudgies. You heard of the
Pukwudgies, Moonite people.
Pukwudgies?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually started right here. I live in Maryland now, but I live on the Eastern Shore. So the Pukwudgies were started by the Delaware tribe. Um, Super weird
Hmm.
fact.
Hmm.
I haven't seen any here yet, but I'll let you guys know if I do.
Yeah. Um, you also have the Cherokee actually. Speaking of the Delaware, the Cherokee actually banded together with the Delaware to fight giants, and that's in several records actually. That's in the Wallamolam, and it's in the Cherokee records as well, and it's in the Delaware's records. So you've got three sources for that story where the Delaware Indians were trying to kill off these giants up in the Pennsylvania area. They were called the Allegheny or Allegheny giants,
Okay, yeah.
It's
I
what
think I've heard.
Allegheny County is named after. Allegheny River is named after. It's
Right.
named after this tribe of giants that the Cherokee banded with the Delaware to go to kill them off. Eventually, they killed them off.
Um, that one quick side note to that Allegheny. So the next county over to me in Virginia, in West Virginia, but it's in Virginia. That's the place I was telling you about, Lake Moomaw. That's actually Allegheny County. So
Hmm. What state is it?
Virginia.
Virginia. Yeah. There's a lot. You see that Allegheny word pop up in a lot of these areas near Pennsylvania,
Right.
associated with this tribe. I think that they were at one point the Allegheny giants were probably had some sort of an expanded civilization. I don't want to just say empire, but maybe perhaps they had a lot of ground, right? Um, you've got Tellico Lake. This is another interesting one. Uh, there's as many as 11 Cherokee cities below Tellico Lake today here in Tennessee.
Nashville, you have the Titans, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's another hidden fact. The New York Football Giants. That's another kind of right in your face, right?
Right, for sure. Check
And
this
they
out.
don't really have a logo, right? The logo is kind of lettering. It's not really, for instance, if you look at the Arizona Cardinals, it's a bird, or the Baltimore Ravens, it's a bird. The Eagles, they're a bird, right? But with the New York Football Giants, it's just the NY. That's the logo to it. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's a little deceptive, right?
Right.
And the
Yeah.
Titans as well is the T with, I think it has fire or flames behind it, but super weird.
Yeah, and like the Titans that's here in Nashville. What's interesting is this whole strip of Nashville that sits right here off the Cumberland was excavated by that same Peabody Museum and that same Putnam guy. I have the documents of it where they came
Is
through
this
there.
the same guy from Ohio, right?
This is the same guy who was involved with Serpent Mound.
Yeah, and
Some of the I would say some of the cover up of that information because he wasn't forthcoming about the giants that were pulled out of Serpent Mound. Putnam wasn't, and
right.
he knew about this whole the Cincinnati mound site that sits under Cincinnati as well. He's the guy who excavated all this stuff around the Cumberland. It seems like if anywhere you have ancient civilizations and giants being found, they sent Putnam in. So
What year was he?
I don't remember, probably like 18 late 1800s. Let me see. And he's a member of the Society of Cincinnati.
Is this Israel Putnam?
No.
Because there's an Israel Putnam who Putnam County, West Virginia, was named after,
Okay.
and that's right on the Ohio River, the Cabell County, Kanawha, and then Mason County. I'm sure if you dig deep enough on this dude, you're going to find Society Cincinnati and probably
Yeah.
named after probably the first cousin to this guy we're talking about. What's his name again? Sorry.
Putnam. Maybe it's Frederick Ward Putnam. I forgot his first name. I have it somewhere in my notes, but let me show you this real quick. Um, I wanted to get to this today. This is what's underneath Tellico Lake. These are all the Cherokee cities that are underneath Tellico Lake. You've got, well, everybody can see. The main one of the main ones was one of the biggest ones was Chota here. So all this was flooded. But here's the thing, I'll show you a map of Chota. Chota, as you can see here on the map, is called Chota, the metropolis. How about that? And again, on this map, you see all these Cherokee cities listed here.
Okay, right along the river, yeah.
Hmm.
And where's this at again?
This is in Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Yeah, underneath Tellico Lake. So since 1979, this has been submerged by the Tellico Lake impoundment of the Little Tennessee River, to be
And that
specific.
That was in 1979.
Yeah, so this one they did this one a little bit later.
That's weird because Lake Moomaw in Allegheny County, Virginia that was 1979 as well.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah,
just super
it may have
super
been.
weird coincidence that we are talking about that too. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's
Yeah.
weird because I was looking. I'm always interested in dates, man. Dates,
Yeah.
times, people, places, because they all have meaning. For instance, as we're stating, both of these were flooded in the same year, right? This is
Right.
kind of interesting. Um, I don't know.
There
What
might
are
be
they
a
really hiding?
there might be definitely might be a connection there. So during the excavations, before they flooded this valley, townhouses were found. They were building houses, right? That it's like the article from Arizona I read earlier. They said they found 3 to 4 story houses. Like these were actually like cities with. They say that the Cherokee had paved streets here as well. Um,
Really?
yes,
Are
they
we
had.
talking like rock or like?
I
I
don't know
mean,
how they
I'm,
paved
I'm,
it.
I'm sure it wasn't asphalt, but maybe I don't know. Maybe it
No, I don't
was.
think so. No, they. I mean, these guys were kind of like alchemists of their own in their own right. Like they could mix
Right.
stuff together. They had some sort of a clay mix or something. Probably there was like an old way of making streets where you didn't use pavement. You used like a certain type of porous clay,
Okay.
so it doesn't wash away, but it also like holds. I don't know. I'm not like an expert on it, but they probably had some sort of a way of making the streets, paving them in their own kind of right. But they had platform mounts here, temples, uh, earthworks. So, and you've got all these Cherokee cities that were here. Chilliwack, Chota, Sitico, Milwaukee, Tallahassee, Tennessee, which I think is what Tennessee's named after, is that Tennessee, which
That
was
A fort.
which was one of the one of it was Tallahassee was the capital at one point, and then the Cherokee moved their capital to Chota. You've got Timotle, Tekoya, Tuskegee, Chattanooga, Great Tellico, and there was also Rose Island, an island on the river there where they had settlements too. So this was a civilization, right?
Yeah.
And Bat Creek Stone. If you look up the Bat Creek Stone, um, it was the Smithsonian itself found this artifact, and it has Hebrew on it. They found it in Chota.
That's weird.
So
So
you have
the
to
Hebrew.
ask yourself, what is a Hebrew artifact doing in a Cherokee city in Appalachia?
Right.
So, like multi-ethnic place, right? I think.
Yeah, it's super.
So
You know, my,
obviously,
your mind's running, right? Of
mhm.
I don't know, Star of Rim fans. I don't know. That's kind of what my mind's going to at the moment.
It was Paleo Hebrew for what it's worth on that Creek stone. And yeah, like you've got,
Are these lost tribes of Israel?
well, that's a good. I've often wondered that myself. You also had the Ice House bottom site. I definitely got to show you that. This was
Um,
under here. Look at this. They had pillars. This was a picture of an excavation of this site, and they called it the Ice House bottom site. And you could see like it looks like pillars there. So there was some sort of a temple complex here, I would wager.
right. Or I mean, you could argue that maybe that's a sacrificial
That right
stone,
there.
right?
This one that this guy's bending over and scraping looks like an altar.
Right.
Mhm. There's altars just like that have been found over here. And that's
That's
exactly
super
what they
weird.
were, was altars. If in fact, I think that the one we're talking about that Rockefeller was interested in down there at Jekyll Island had that sort of a shape, I think, if I'm remembering that
Okay.
correctly.
Can I swing us back for 1 second?
Sure, man.
Just something I was researching as we were talking. So Israel Putnam, and this Frederick Ward Putnam, the cleaner as you're calling him, both of these guys are born in Salem, Massachusetts. So
Mm.
very weird.
Hmm.
This guy, Israel Putnam, who Putnam County, West Virginia, is named after. Um, he is a close associate of George Washington, so I'm assuming this is Society of Cincinnati, bringing this to the Massachusetts chapter that JJ always talks about because I think the way he words it is the Massachusetts Society and the South Carolina kind of have this ongoing feud. I think that's how he breaks it down. Well, I would love to hear him talk about it though. That would be super cool if he could swing it into the society cover up. Because me and him we talked about George Washington, making these rounds throughout Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, to these burial mound sites. So something there for sure.
Yeah, and it's good to remember too that George Washington documented seeing the giants when they were building Fort Loudon. Now, it's not the Fort Loudon that was on that map I just showed, because there was a fort down there right outside of the Cherokee City called Fort Loudon. Well, there was another one, Fort Loudon, up in Virginia. When they were constructing that fort, they were digging, and George Washington was there, and they pulled two giants out of the ground there, and he talked about it. He knew about the giants.
Right.
Abraham Lincoln knew about the giants as well. A lot of these guys did.
Some argue that Lincoln is a giant, but
Yeah, man.
that one's a little. I think he was more homosexual than anything, but that's neither here or there.
Let me show you something, dude. Um,
Hey, dude, Mary Todd Lincoln wanted him done. So that's all. That's all I'm gonna say about the Lincoln assassination.
Mary Todd was an occultist, bro. For real.
What is this?
She was holding seances in the White House. Check.
Have you seen the AI renditions of the Lincoln assassination? They're hilarious.
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's like what's his name? Uh John Wilkes Booth. He pulls up uh into the overlook there, the balcony, and he's like talking like all this Gen Z language. It's stupid, but it's funny. It's like his AI rendition.
This is that shaman's mask I was telling you about earlier.
Okay.
Skull of a shaman. I think he was like buried wearing this thing too.
That's weird.
Uh, this was found in Kentucky in a mound.
Is this some skinwalker stuff?
This is the ritual practice of the Adena. So that's another thing to add in here. The Adena Hopewell culture were definitely into some occultism in their own way, in their own kind of flavor. Um, but this is like the front teeth have been deliberately removed while he was alive. So they took this guy's front teeth out so he could wear this mask because it like locks in. If your teeth are removed,
Right.
the mask like locks in and it becomes like your new jaw, but it's a wolf jaw.
That's crazy.
Dramatic prosthetic is what they call it here. I'd agree with that. So
Yeah, this is weird.
he'd wear this during ceremonies and other things. So, anyways, you get into this gets back into those. We found the crystal balls and the magic wands. Even like I think there were some occultists. They were talking about this on Pennyroyal too. There were some occultists that were going back in to some of the Adena Hopewell areas where they believed there to be a portal. They believed that they had opened the portal there, and some modern day occultists were going in there to
Right.
mess with it.
What's his name?
Kenneth
Aleister
Grant,
Crowley, right? Crowley was
maybe.
ru he was rumored to be in Kentucky at Mammoth Cave.
Oh,
So
interesting. I didn't know about that.
yeah,
Oh, I thought that this was all Kenneth Grant, but I mean, Crowley got around, man. Crowley
yeah.
got around.
Crowley had family in Kentucky. So
There's a lot going on with these, man. Like, um, the the one, and I won't go much into this now, but there's a third site that I mentioned it here in Tennessee, and it's called Norris Dam, and it's where they found allegedly they found a an Egyptian temple. And that's as crazy as that sounds. There was a temple found there. When
In Tennessee, right?
Yeah, and this is Norris Dam. It's near Oak Ridge. It's next to a town called Clinton.
Uh-oh.
We'll talk about Oak Ridge in a second. I saw you light up when I said that.
Yeah.
They it's called Powell Lake as well,
Okay.
right where
I
they
think I've heard there's really good fish in there too. I think I've
but
heard the
I
name.
bet there's good fishing for artifacts there.
Oh, I'm thinking of one in Utah.
So before they put in the dam there, before they put Norris Dam in, they a guy from Cambridge, no, it was Oxford, I think. I know I'm sorry, people, if you listen to the show, I get that wrong every time. I can't remember. Is it just a big head honcho archaeologist guy went in there and looked at the temple, and they told him they're like, you guys can excavate this, but you have to be out by a certain time because we're putting a dam in. But they went in there and they dated it, and they did what they could. And this guy said he thought it was Egyptian, and he also said he thought it dated back to Göbekli Tepe or older.
Oh wow.
So that's significant, right?
Yeah. What
That's
is that? That's 10,000 BC, right?
Yeah, whatever Göbekli
Göbekli
Tepe
Tepe.
is. Yeah, it's one of the
I
older
think it's 10.
sites that we know of. Um, they may have found something older recently, but that's up there with the oldest, right?
Right.
And this is all
Yeah,
outside of Oak
10,000
Ridge.
BC.
And again, like not to just repeat myself, but going back to some of these other sites we talked about today, going back to the 5,000-year-old city in Arizona, why did they not make moves to try and preserve that and keep that like not flooded again once they refound it? Like, because I guarantee you, when they put the dam in there in the first place, they knew it was there. So why did they flood it the first time? Why they allow it to flood the second time? What's really going on here? Why, if you find a site as old as Göbekli Tepe in Tennessee and you're going to flood it, what's really going on here?
Right.
Something's not adding up. And you look at this region, Oak Ridge, man. You already know. We had this conversation. You're into the high strangeness. I'm into the high strangeness. They're getting ready to, on top of all the high strangeness, they're getting ready to start uranium enrichment in the U.S. and they're doing it in East Tennessee in Oak Ridge.
Dude, you have no idea how excited I'm here to say this, bro. But a company that no one
NASA's coming
likes,
in as well.
no, yeah, no one likes to talk about this company, bro. But I've been screaming from the rooftops for 5 freaking years until somebody will listen. So, the little known company named Bechtel out of San Fran. I just looked it up. I just put in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Betchel. And the first thing pops up, we have an environmental program here in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, being performed by Betchel. It is a uranium processing facility. Betchel, as we know, is this super deep underground, military connected, deep state cabal, right? These dudes are all running around this Hoover type. They built what was the other Tennessee uh, where they were doing the nuclear testing? What was it? Shoot,
There's one in Memphis too, I think. But yeah, Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
the
Yeah.
Manhattan Project. Yeah, because Oak Ridge was part of the Manhattan Project as well.
Yes.
But Betchel was one of the formative companies who built these bases, such as S2, S4, Los Alamos. These dudes are deep into some stuff, man. And I've done so much research on them, but I did not know that they were in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which is very strange, brother,
Mm.
because these dudes are dark and they're tied in with the whole Reagan administration. They're basically a freaking CIA cutout that the government's laundering money through. Basically, that's what my research is showing me.
Well, that's funny because the Reagan administration are the ones who started really, really pumping up funding for hadron colliders,
Okay.
and they have one at Oak Ridge. It's
Right.
like the CERN of the South, the
Yeah.
CERN of the U.S. Right? Reagan administration is the first. They really brought in funding for that
Okay. I
because
didn't know
of
that.
very sketchy. It's another topic for another day. But I think it falls in line with this uranium enrichment and just beyond that, Oak Ridge has been quietly behind the scenes involved with
A lot of stuff,
a
dude.
lot of weird stuff, MK Ultra stuff, and even like advanced technology, possibly UFO stuff. Well, I forget
Time
what all.
slips.
Yeah, it's portals, all that, right? And right now
Right.
they're saying that they're working on the future of nuclear powered space flight. And
Right.
that's what's going to be tied in with this uranium enrichment project out there.
And
People see UFOs, cryptids, all that out there. They have a
oh
big,
yeah, Dog Man. Yeah,
yes.
they get it's
Speaking
super
of
weird, right?
Walmart, dude, there was a guy who had a crazy Oak Ridge Walmart sighting. He was at the Walmart there, and they said a big ship just hovered over the Walmart.
What?
Yeah,
Like a pirate ship?
yeah, like a big UFO.
Oh, like a UFO ship. I was thinking of a pirate ship.
Actually, yeah, there was. If you go back far enough, there was a guy named the Prop. They call him the Prophet of Oak Ridge. His name was John Hendricks. He lived in the area right at the turn of the century. And he was going around telling everybody, this is before the Manhattan Project, right? They didn't know it was coming. This was 40 years before that. He's going around telling everybody that he's having these prophetic visions that there was going to be a city in the empty valley that Oak Ridge is today. He's like, they're going to put a city in here one day. He was also saying that he was taking up to a ship in the sky, like a big palatial sky ship. They didn't, I don't think he had a word for UFO then. So,
Right.
and he said, yeah, they were telling me things up there. And they locked the guy in a barn because they thought he was crazy
Right.
until 1940s, middle of World War II, I think it was associated World War II, the date was, and you've got like what you're saying, the Manhattan Project. So they got
Right.
stuff in Manhattan, they got stuff going on at Los Alamos, and they build what they call the secret city where Oak Ridge is today. And they send thousands, 70,000 people were there at one point.
Right.
So this dude
Yeah.
was dead on.
That's crazy. I didn't know about that. I didn't know that dude actually like predicted that. That's
Mhm.
insane.
Yeah.
But like as we're saying though, this is one of the darker companies I think. But Betchel, man, they tie into so many different things, dude.
Mm.
Especially like we're saying with Los Alamos, they built Los Alamos, right?
Mhm.
They were the construction company um of these deep state projects, right? Because this is kind of how I was looking at things. I always try to go the opposite way of what everyone's saying, right? So I branched out and I thought, well, who's pouring all this concrete, right? This is a lot of concrete because I work in construction and I'm familiar with, building things and I understand how quick things can go up and how quick things can be demoed, right? So I was thinking like, who built all these? And then I found out about Betchel, and then I found out about how they own, this Boy Scout camp in West Virginia. Um, so that's basically how I got hooked. And then you find out a lot of their cabinet members were CIA or FBI higher ups right after they get out of the FBI or CIA. So it's kind of this loop of, deep state actors,
I was getting ready
So,
to say, now we're definitely getting into deep state stuff.
right.
Um, I mean, I don't know, man. Does it line up the Society of Cincinnati? Are some of these guys like society families? That would be an interesting.
Right. I've never even actually dived into the society factors of it,
Mhm.
really. I was
I'm
more
sh
interested. I was like so deep into the deep underground military base
Yeah.
stuff. So that's
It might be a totally different faction of
right.
elites. You never know. Like I do think that we have different warring factions of these rich and powerful.
Right.
It's kind of spread across the planet or the planet or the earth, whatever. Man, I've had some, I don't want to jump to this, but I've had some like nasty messages from like flat earthers and like people who think space is fake. So I'm like, now I'm like, when I say planet, I'm like, oh, please, please, leave me alone, man.
Right. Yeah.
I don't even talk about flat earth. Like, just leave me alone. But, so just to
They,
recap, that's interesting, dude. All that you just dropped, it's freaking interesting. But,
and the Reagan administration, one more thing to add to that. They were kind of the start of this continuity of government, right? This cog. as some people like to say. So this is more of the deep state facility, underground, Mount Weather, just different areas of that nature of the underground bases and places where these elites would go. So
You should do, if you haven't already, you should do a big old thing on that. Like,
on Betchel, yeah, yeah, I've thought about it. It's on the top of the list, man. But I just kind of been so busy right now with life, so I've been just trying to squeeze out any podcast I can. I haven't done a solo episode in a while,
that's,
so
see, I can see, like, so you've got a lot of good information with that, right? And I could totally see doors, like the more you look into some of those certain aspects that you brought up, I guarantee you it's just going to go deeper and deeper and deeper. It's
dude,
like stuff's just
my
going to
cousin,
open
my
up.
cousin worked for Betchel, and I didn't even know it, bro. So it
You
was
might be
kind of
getting a
like this,
call. You might be calling you up. Hey, man, what are you doing?
dude. She was like, I mean, I'm not gonna, name drop or anything of that, but anyway, she was deep into, we'll say, a nuclear weapons
Mm,
facility. So
hmm. Well,
super
that's
weird. And I'm trying to get her on to talk about it, but
love it. I love it. That's the thing, man. These ancient civilizations are not exclusive to the surface necessarily. I think that some of these people built into the earth and built civilizations into the, like, the sides of cliffs even. Like that's where you get into this Egyptian stuff in the Grand Canyon. And the guy that went in there the first time, he talked about how there was basically a big hollowed out caverns once you got in there, and there was, you could tell that there was a city of people living there, right? Well, I would imagine that some of our deep underground military bases are similar, where they've moved into those existing cities
right,
that were
were they
underground.
pre-existing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
that's
right.
that's a that's a thought that's definitely crossed my mind because especially here, if you look at the maps of these actual underground bases that we know of, that have been proven by the U.S. government, most of these places are near cave systems, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
also you got to look at the missing 411 aspect of things too, right? These missing peoples that look at the map, bro. It follows the whole Allegheny Mountain Trail and it follows the whole Rocky Mountain Trail out there in the west, right? There's a few blobs in the middle, but mainly it's sticking towards, Tennessee, Virginia, Georgia, all the way up into Maine. You know what I mean? This whole Appalachian region, plus the whole Rocky Mountain span of things. So there's definitely a cave presence and also a missing persons that just vanish, right? If familiar with any of the missing 411 stuff, it's super cool because most of these places are actually national parks, right? So these are government controlled facilities that the government knows what's running and around there, right?
And who
Are these
established the national parks? Teddy Roosevelt,
Teddy Roosevelt?
Josiah Cincinnati.
Right. And he's also faking his hunting expeditions as well, right? Some people claim that Teddy's even seen some of these Bigfoot creatures. So
Yeah,
I think,
he had a Bigfoot sighting in his.
right. There was an encounter, right? I'm
Yeah,
not crazy.
no, there was. The it was, so it was like three of these guys who were said to be like avid outdoorsmen. You've got Teddy Roosevelt, Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett. They all had Bigfoot Sasquatch encounters, and that's very, very interesting stuff. But yeah, yeah, the national parks, man. Why did they choose to put them where they put them? Why are they blocking off areas of the national parks like the Grand Canyon, not letting people go in there to see? Like, just let us go in there and see. If there's not an Egyptian city in there, let us go in there and see for ourselves, man. Right?
Right.
Like,
Dude, the Betchel facility I'm speaking of, West Virginia, is in a national park as well. The New River Gorge National Park area there. So
there's a lot of weird stuff with New River Gorge.
yeah, dude. That was like literally 45 minutes from my house, but literally the next like 10 minutes over from there is this Boy Scout Jamboree Camp, which is an underground facility.
Mm, it's wild, wild,
I
wild.
believe, Tim, I believe that government hasn't came out and said it, but I believe 130% for sure that there is an underground base there. I believe there's a bunker. I don't know where it connects to. I would assume the Greenbrier Hotel, they're within 70 miles of each other. So that's another underground, proven underground bunker. So is there railways underneath these things? I know you mentioned there was tunnels underneath waterways. Well, the New River Gorge Bridge is one of the oldest waterways in the world, right? So you got to think, dude, why is there an underground base literally 10 miles beside it?
Mm.
I don't know, bro. It's definitely crazy because that New River Gorge, guess where it goes to? The Mississippi.
Mm.
It bleeds out of West Virginia into the Ohio, and the Ohio goes into the Mississippi. So,
So it's literally connected to the ancient highways because those
right,
riverways were highways for these people. Yeah. I mean, I think because of West Virginia's proximity to DC alone and to Virginia alone, I do think that that's where a lot of the tunnels are.
right,
We know that they've because just the heightened state of security around a nation's capital lends to them wanting to put in tunnels and all that. We've heard about the tunnels. They always say the tunnels definitely go out from Washington D.C. Well, where do they go? I think
right,
many of them go to West Virginia, and I'll tell you why. Um, we know that these people like to have their bunkers, their escape routes, and their like fail safes in case something happens. Well, if you're going to have an underground base, what's the most secure place you can do it? Well, somewhere that's not very populated, somewhere where you have secrecy, and also if you put an underground base underneath a mountain, you're in something that can't be destroyed.
D- double protection, right?
Double protection.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I never thought of it that way. You know what I mean? So you have the mountaintop, and then you have the subterranean service below the mountaintop. So it's like extra padding,
Indestructible.
right?
Indestructible. And that state is like it's poor,
Oh
it's
yeah,
it's like sparsely populated. It's you had a Rockefeller in there for 40 years
yeah. Jay
overse-
Rockefeller.
overseeing the whole thing. It's
Yeah, it's a dump, brother. It's been I love it. It's beautiful, but
mm,
the political side of it is definitely in turmoil, and I don't agree with it. So
right. Yeah,
that's
I feel you, man.
because I've seen from growing up there. I know what the place is, right? I've seen it. So it's just definitely weird that West Virginia was heavily involved. But I didn't want to completely jump off this topic, but I do have this tunnel boring machine I wanted to show everyone just in case they thought I was crazy. This was actually, let me share it. Can I share this real
Yeah,
quick?
for sure.
Okay. All right. So this is the United States Air Force tunnel boring nuclear machine. This
Nice.
was in Nevada. This picture was actually, but this is how they make the tunnels. So it melts the bedrock or the rocks around it, right? This is how they're when you're digging a tunnel, you're thinking, well, where's all this material going? Well, melted into it's being melted into a tunnel structure. So it's definitely cool. If you look here, you got just talking about Northrop facility in Antelope Valley, California, Edwards, which was the Lockheed installation, right?
Yeah, wild.
So yeah, it says it can.
Phil Schneider was involved with this.
No, this wasn't Phil Schneider. I think he kind of piggybacked off of it, but
Ah, I see.
uh, yeah, I don't completely believe Phil Schneider.
Well, that's fine.
Um, some things I do, some things I don't. I kind of go um, back and forth. But yeah, this is just the machinery. There's actually a patent done on it too. I was going to mention that, but here it is. So it's real.
Okay. Yeah, man, that's crazy. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it's super interesting stuff. So that
Hmm.
that that led me down to the tunnel rabbit hole. So it
Yeah.
goes definitely deep,
Yeah.
literally and
Yeah,
figuratively.
you're right. Right, right. No, that's cool, man. This is going to be an interesting episode, man. We covered a lot of ground here. I'll just recap it real quick. The Where was I at?
Cities, Tennessee cities,
Oh, where they put in the dam in so we've got an Egyptian
Norris Dam.
North Dam, thank you.
Yep.
We've got an Egyptian temple or some sort of very interesting site that might be as old as Göbekli Tepe underneath this dam. Now, where they put the dam in and where they flooded the site, behind that now is what's called Powell Lake. And they say they don't know why it's named Powell Lake because I've looked. I'll tell you why. Because of John Wesley Powell. It's gotta be. And there's also Powell Lake in the Grand Canyon where you've got hieroglyphics from there when the water's low,
Right.
especially. That's definitely named after John Wesley Powell. So you kind of end up at the same kind of group, the same group of people who facilitated this in the first place. When you look at the names, you brought up the names earlier. So you've got the Lake Powell. I'll just mention that for a second. That was created by the Glen Canyon Dam, and it's connected to Lake Mead. Lake Mead has an ancient city underneath it. You can actually go look that one up. That's documented.
Okay.
It's another one of these interesting places, and I think the Hoover Dam is associated with this as well.
John Wesley Powell married his cousin.
I don't know. Maybe he was
That's
a weirdo. Maybe.
that's what this first article pulls up, that John Wesley Powell marries his cousin.
Hmm. But all the
That's
Lake Mead, Glen Canyon Dam, Lake Powell, all that stuff in Arizona is connected to. Maybe it's not in Arizona. Maybe it's in Colorado. I have to look again. But it's connected to the Grand Canyon where all these Egyptian artifacts were found. So
right.
and there's always, if you talk to the locals out there, you've got they'll show you they have pictures of hieroglyphs and they'll talk about the hieroglyphs and there's all kinds of weird stuff down there. So
Wow.
yeah, dude. I mean, I won't go through the rest of my list, but I think I've given people enough here. But like Barren River Lake up in Kentucky, that's another one. It's got mounds pointing up out of the lake.
Wow. Where's this at in Kentucky?
Barren River Lake, Kentucky. It's right near the Tennessee border. Um, and I'd have to look. I don't know if there's anything nearby that you'd recognize, but you've got another one, Lake Ray Hubbard, that's out in Dallas. You've got the legendary rock wall that's underneath the ground now, but part of it was exposed and they covered it with the lake. Um, So, and that whole area of Dallas is interesting too because this didn't get any coverage, but archaeologists uncovered like 3,000 prehistoric artifacts. This was back in 2013 when they were building Texas Horse Park, which
Okay.
is 8 miles south of downtown Dallas. So there was a civilization there for sure.
Barren Lake, the one you mentioned earlier, is not far from Mammoth
Right.
cave system. So
Right.
that's super interesting as well.
Hmm. Yeah, and a lot of these lakes might have underground stuff happening. I don't know. Like they're blown out, they're flooded rivers,
Right.
but who knows what's going on underground. But yeah, man, that's oh, there's one more I gotta mention. Not Notley Dam. I might be mispronouncing that, but it's Nottely. It's in North Georgia. I found a
Okay.
blog about there's a researcher there who claims that there's a Mayan civilization in the
Wow.
Notley River Basin. So I wanted to throw
Dude.
that in. Yeah, maybe got
Yeah,
some
that's
Mayans.
what was your I remember when you came on my show, you mentioned this in New York, these three islands that were in New York. Do you remember that? It was an ancient city as well. That was
Oh
super
yeah.
interesting.
It was associated
I
with
don't know if you've talked about this on your show, but it definitely, I'm sure your audience would love to hear it. It was super interesting.
yeah, it's this islands that were associated with the Onondaga tribe.
Yeah.
Um, and in the 1500s, this guy named Champlain went in there and tried to overtake their fort, which was a city. So, because they were fortifying their cities, right? This kind of goes back to what um, Dr. Greg Little talks about, where when Cahokia fell, they all went elsewhere and they started all these fortified cities start popping up, right? So that was
Right.
kind of the thing over here. And you see that was a thing over in the Middle East. If you ever read the Old Testament, what you're dealing with is walled cities. usually built up on top of a hill. Um,
Right.
that's what I think what some of these tribes were doing, like the Onondaga tribe. And it gets interesting because in the region you also had the Susquehannock. And
Right.
like the Onondaga, the Susquehannock were completely wiped out. John Smith, the Pocahontas John Smith, wrote that he encountered the Susquehannock and they were giants. He said they were 7 foot tall.
Wow. So does this lead us into the Roanoke colony type? Any connections there?
Yeah, well, I had JT on and he was telling me he found an old map where there was a star fort right there where the Roanoke colony is.
Wow.
It had been covered up on the map, but somehow they found out that there was a star fort there. And so you got to think like those people came straight to a star fort.
Right. They had to have pre-existing knowledge.
They had pre-existing knowledge, and there was already a fort here when they got here
Right.
that all these people built. Yeah, man, this rabbit hole goes deep, but yeah.
You know what
Um,
would be cool if we actually had, actual literature work of this, right? Documentation of this, right? You don't really find that type of history here in modern America, but it's super interesting for sure.
mhm. um, New Mexico, you've got Conchas Lake, Conchas, created by the Army Corps of Engineers in
Shocker.
1939, right? Shocker. This is the same group who flooded East Fork Lake. Um, like East Fork Lake, what you find at Conchas Lake are Hebrew like characters and petroglyphs and rumored hieroglyphs. So you got to ask, what's at the bottom of all these lakes, guys?
Right.
I'm just trying to lay out what I've found. Of course, this is a growing list, so that's why I
Oh yeah, dude.
encourage
This is
people.
a series, man. I think have you had Greg Little on?
No, I've tried to get him on though. Greg, you hear
Right.
that? Come on the
Greg,
show,
get on the
man.
show, bud.
Excuse me, Doctor
Dr.
Little,
Greg.
please, sir, come on my show. No, I enjoy his work. He's put in a lot of work. I'll tell you who I have had on, who's done a lot of work. Fritz Zimmerman. That
Not
guy's
familiar.
his books go deep into this stuff. Giants, ancient civilizations, all this stuff. This is a thing. It's a thing you don't hear about, and you look into it and you find guys like Greg Little, Fitz Zimmerman. What's the other guys? There's a couple other guys. My brain is almost fried from all this information. So like I'm blanking on a couple of names right now, but you'll find the guy who Barry Fell, who wrote America BC. Barry Fell, Fritz Zimmerman, Dr. Greg Little. Um, some of these guys have compiled huge amounts of information on this stuff to do with North America. There's an entire hidden history here that is not being talked about. And like I say, man, I never thought that I'd be over here looking into ancient civilizations or flooded civilizations, man.
Right.
Didn't even know they were here in the first place. I thought
Yeah, who would?
we were told it was the pilgrims, man. Like they showed up and like traded fruits or vegetables with some Native
Dude,
Americans.
it's such a Paul Bunyan-esque story, right? The whole history is, bro. It's a fraud. It's so sad. You know what I mean? That people actually continually to push the narrative, right? If I was a
Mhm.
history teacher, dude, oh my gosh,
I know.
I'd be fired. Rockefeller Foundation would just can
They
my
wouldn't even let
ass.
you in, man.
No.
They wouldn't even let us in. It's like, can you imagine if somebody like myself or yourself got on Joe Rogan and started exposing all this stuff? Like they don't, you know what I mean? Like even on the big podcast, you don't hear
No,
about this stuff.
dude, they pussyfoot around the whole framework of history, right? You have um what's his name? The Beard of Knowledge. What's that guy's name? He's on Rogan all the time. Big guy with a beard. Him and the doctor that had the Netflix series. The
Oh,
guy that was
Graham
talking
Hancock.
Graham Hancock and
Oh,
what's
right.
the
You're
other
talking about Randall Carlson.
Randall Carlson, that clown. Yeah, that's the Beard of Knowledge. That's what they call him.
Man, he's not that bad, is he? I like some of his stuff. He's got some good work on mounds.
Yeah, but I just want him to. I want him to just talk about the Rockefeller crud that was pushed through the educational system, right? They
Yeah.
won't do it. They don't. They don't like. They stay away from the Rockefellers. The heavy hitters, they tend to, bounce away from.
Yeah, yeah.
And you say this is pirate radio, brother. This is the new age, man. And
New
then
age of
I
pirate
really
radio. Yes,
I
sir.
really agree with that. I think we're making history, and as little as my channel may be, I think that we really are making some movements into some thoughts, right? Just not being closed-minded. That's my main goal, man. I want people just to just think of all the possibilities that are out there, because this is what my brain does 24/7. Sometimes it's to my detriment, but for the most time, I think it's very helpful to be able to see things for what they are. And I think that's part of being a Christian too, right? I think seeing things for as they are.
Mhm.
That's just my 2 cents on it.
I like that, man. That's a good way to wrap it up too. We'll see, man. We'll see what people do with this information. I'm putting it out. I'm putting it out for free. Trust me, I have more than enough stuff to do a book. I could totally
Right.
do a book and totally sell it. I could totally sit on this information and put it out as a book so I could get money for it. Um, and I might do a book someday. I don't know, but for now, I'm putting it out. Here's 2 hours. Here's 2 hours of free information for people. We'll see what they do with it.
Right. The ball's in your court, right?
Right. We've done our part for now, right? We'll see what people do with it, man. And I
Yeah,
appreciate you coming on, brother. I really do.
absolutely, man. It was fun. Definitely, we'll definitely have to do it again. We should definitely do some more of the seances. I like that aspect of it too. You know what I mean? The whole occult perspective of ritualistic murders that are around these mound sites. Maybe JJ would come on. We could do a little 3-man show on that. That would be
Mhm.
super cool, because he was telling me all about the smiley face killers and how they're aligned with mound sites.
Mhm.
So definitely cool. Pittsburgh, for example. I know we mentioned Allegheny County. There you go, right? That's a big site of. That was the first instance of the smiley face killer. If I'm not,
Pittsburgh?
yeah, that's a
Oh, dude,
big
we could
smiley
totally
face
do a
killer.
show on this, man. I've got all kinds of stuff on Pittsburgh. That's
Yeah, it's a
wild.
it's a huge smiley face killer. Uh, I think it was one of the first. If I'm not
Okay.
familiar, if I'm
I've been wanting to do a show
yeah,
on it.
Dakota James. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was in Pittsburgh. That was the start of smiley face killer.
Mm. It got weird over here in Nashville too. They think that the smiley face had a stopover here in Nashville and had something to do with that Riley
Riley
kid.
Riley Gaines kid. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was super weird.
It was very weird. I know exactly
Hey,
I know where he got whatever. I mean, I don't know if he got there was surveillance footage of him leaving
walking
the
the street.
sidewalk and
Yeah,
going down towards the Cumberland. I know exactly where that is.
and that was
Uh,
it.
yeah, so I'd have to look into the case again, but that's a very interesting location for someone to go missing right there.
Right.
Yeah, there
What
was.
about that? The New Year's Eve or the New Year's Day or Christmas morning. What was it? Was it Christmas or New Year's
The
of the
bombing.
bomber?
Yeah,
Yeah, that killed literally nobody.
nobody. He told people.
Right.
Well, he didn't tell
That's
people, but he put a message on loop and ran it through a speaker that was mounted on top of an RV, telling people,
right.
"I have a bomb. Leave the
Get out.
vicinity." Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was interesting, man. I was in Alabama when that happened. My neighbor heard it go off.
Really.
Yeah, but I was in Alabama, and when I came back, uh, everything was down. See, what that guy was doing was exposing a
The
flaw in the
AT&T stuff.
grid. He was trying to expose how fragile our grid is.
Okay.
This is my whole. I remember when it happened. I looked into it. I looked into the guy. He seems like what he was trying to do was expose how a foreign attack could take out our grid. And he was like, nobody believes me, so I'm just going to show you.
Right. So
That
sort of this. Ted Kaczynski type of character.
Right. And I'm not saying he was right to do that.
Right.
Don't get it twisted. But he
Yeah,
had some just weird vigilante type motives for doing it. And when I'm on my way
probably.
back from Alabama, I was in Huntsville. Um, everything was cash only. He literally took out the internet.
Right.
Like even the card readers at the gas stations weren't working.
Wow. Yeah.
My girlfriend didn't have her phone stopped working. It totally took out her internet.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
that's super crazy.
it
And
was
you don't hear anything else about it, do you, Tim?
no, but it was all the way. It was from Tennessee into down into Alabama. It was like statewide. He took out the grid, bro. It's
Right.
crazy. Yeah, yeah. You don't hear anything about it.
Hulu actually made a knockoff smear campaign on the guy, labeling as a crazy conspiracy
Oh,
theorist.
I know where he lived too. He lived about 10, maybe less than 10 minutes from me.
Really?
He lived in Madison. And I mean, I'm sure he was a little crazy.
He
Yeah.
probably wasn't well. We'll say that.
Right, right.
He could have been a victim of a, MK Ultra, probably would be my assumption.
But
He was a super soldier, maybe.
yeah, he had worked for AT&T and he
Right.
knew how fragile it was or something like that. So there's a whole thing to it, but he he definitely didn't want to hurt anybody. That's
Right.
the weirdest thing about
Yeah,
it.
that
Like it
was
wasn't a
it
classic
wasn't a
terrorist.
terrorist.
Yeah,
It wasn't a terrorist motivation like they made it out to be, right?
right.
It was completely innocent in a sense, other than arson or you know what I mean. In that sense of things, he wasn't aim. His motives weren't to kill anyone, right? So that was kind of odd. I felt, that's why I kind of labeled him maybe as a Ted Kaczynski sort of, this consumerist society, right? Because if you go back to Kaczynski, he was doing all these UC Berkeley, these what's it called? Like uh these theosophic society things, right? These green kind of these hippie movements, I guess, kind of you could say was Kaczynski's motives. A
Well,
lot of professors were hit. He killed people, which is screwed up, and I'll never, you know, if that's true, right? We don't know if it's,
right,
I don't know, right?
right.
So just gotta, he was one of the first MK Ultra experiments. He was
Mm-hmm.
17, I think, or 16 when he was in Harvard. So
Mm-hmm. Eric Rudolph was another interesting one. He was the guy that
Eric
was
Rudolph.
bombing abortion clinics, I think. But he had a very interesting manifesto that I read, and it wasn't because I was in any type of way a fan of this guy. I just thought it was interesting because he went on the run and he actually was able to evade the FBI for 5 years, I think, and he was hiding out in Appalachia.
Really?
Yes, and he was hiding out on top of a mountain. At one point, he was watching the FBI headquarters. He was watching them leave every morning to go out and look for him. That's
That's weird.
how the dude was like kind of brilliant in that way. Like he was able to get away and live off
Right.
the land. But anyway, Eric Rudolph, he's another one of these. It's like what really was the motive here and all that. But yeah, man, we'll have to set something up. Obviously, we could talk
Um,
about stuff all
yeah,
day, but
one more thing. Kaczynski was actually one of Donald Trump's uncle's students at Harvard University.
John Trump,
John
really,
Trump. Yeah.
really.
A little odd side note, but I found it very interesting because if anyone hasn't read his manifesto, read his manifesto and tell me what you don't see happening today, and I'll give you $100 bill. Because
John,
just about everything that Kaczynski said of this whole kind of this transhumanist takeover, right, kind of going on has become true. These big conglomerate companies, Walmart's, Amazon's, this is what he was warning about, right? And I'm not agreeing with his messaging or anything of that nature, but I'm not saying everything he said was wrong either. And
hmm I hear you. I know we're not promoting these guys.
right,
Uh,
I'm not going to sit here and act like these guys are like these angel characters, but I'm also not going to completely throw everything out that they had to say.
Right,
It's
right.
just
John Trump, man, got a hold of the Tesla files in 1943 when Tesla died. They sent John Trump in.
right. He was the cleanup crew.
Yeah. And I mean, I think they allowed him to, they had him looking for something. That's a whole other thing for another day too. But I think that might be tied in with Roswell personally. But um, John Trump's an interesting one. His mentor at MIT was Vannevar Bush, who
Yeah.
was a part of UFO government programs.
Okay.
Yeah, the John Trump rabbit hole goes deep.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, tell everyone how you spell your thing, your podcast, and tell them where they can
Okay.
find you.
Yeah, this is the Daily Dissident is the daily, and then dissident is Dissident. Everywhere you get podcasts. I know you mentioned that I need to put a space in between my names, and I will do it. I just have not got
You
around.
will.
Yeah, hopefully, like you said, it wasn't showing up, so that kind of defeats the purpose of plugging me in the show notes, right? So,
Right.
everywhere you find me on podcast, I'm usually uploading once a week, if not twice a week. Um, yeah, super cool stuff on there, from anything from tunnels to seances to occult murders to um, Bigfoot to geopolitical turmoil. So that's kind of, I like to say, I like to cover what Tucker Carlson won't. So,
Love that. I love
yep.
that. Yeah, I'll leave the link for sure below so people can just they don't have to worry about the spelling. I just wanted you to kind of have it out there for people. But all you gotta do, folks, is look down in the description. You'll find links to his show. Go check his show out. I like it. I enjoy it. Um, and I do this, so I can tend to be picky. So if
Right.
I like the show, it's a good sign. It's a good sign. But yeah, let's do this again, man. We'll talk. We'll stay in touch. Thanks everyone for listening and hanging with us. Again, you got my email. I said it earlier. I don't you give that out anymore, but I'm one time deal for this show only. I'm giving my email out because I do want to hear from people. Of course, some of you guys have a way of finding my email anyways. So hats off to those of you who've done that. But for this show only, you got my email. If you want to add, if you want to say nasty things, don't even bother because I won't even read it. I'll sense it. I have a sense at this point. I can tell when I'm getting a nasty email from somebody who's mentally ill, who has a problem with something I said that's not that big of a deal in the first place. I can sense it. I can tell in the first couple sentences, folks. I've gotten it down to a science. So if you're one of those people, stop listening or keep listening. I don't care, but save it. Just save it because I'm not even going to read it. But if you got good things to say and you want to add to the conversation, hit me up. I'd love to hear from you and hit me up on Instagram too. Um, as always, break the mold, conquer the realm, and thanks for listening.